Awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Again, it's a pleasure to have you guys today on this week's live stream. So this week on live stream, we're sort of going to be talking about the process of writing epic music, really what epic music means, and what are some of the attributes of epic music as we look at it today. Epic music is something that has changed dramatically throughout the past I'd say 100 years. I'd say epic music back in the early 20th century. I would say Holst with Mars and gigantic orchestration, therefore leading into the golden age of film composition. From the golden age of film composition, really setting the stage for Star Wars, which sort of carried some of those characteristics along with it of the big orchestration, the really sort of heavy of use of choral and that type of stuff. And then from there, especially over the past 10 to 15 years, it's definitely gone in a very interesting direction. It's gone in a direction that I was sort of, I would say sort of born into, I guess, because that's sort of what's been going on in my whole time of doing this. So I think that the epic music that we have today is much different from the epic music that we might have had 100 years ago with somebody like Gustav Holst, simply because of the fact that the use of harmony is much different. It's simplified. The orchestration is very, very different. We're sort of much more focused on one solo instrument to carry a whole piece. So we might have the French horn, which of course is a very powerful instrument that's used to carry a whole piece. So for example, we have this French horn. That's something that could carry a whole entire piece. So we have, we've definitely simplified a bit, definitely simplified the harmony, and we've sort of gone a long ways from the old type of epic music that we used to have. For example, like the John Williams type music, where we'd have that type of stuff, very, very fast, very complex, or and we still sort of have that in a lot of film score music. It's just a little bit different, especially when it comes to the Two Steps from Hell type stuff, Audio Machine, and the type of music that's coming out simply for people to listen to. Human beings are generally much more attracted to simplicity. Simplicity tends to, it's always been said, whether it's with movies or whether it's with music, the things that people can relate to the most are the things that people enjoy the most. So that's pretty much why in epic music, or in music in general, people are going to stick with the music that they can sort of understand the most. And when you have, a dramatic amount of things happening at one point, in your face, harmony all over the place, sometimes it definitely gets people off track. So today we're going to sort of talk about my process in specific of how I compose music, how I start, where does the idea come from, and we're going to sort of aim this at epic music, in specific. So I've written this short demo cue. And this cue is sort of supposed to possess the characteristics of something in the epic music style. So it's going to have, big orchestration. It's going to begin with a soundscape. It's going to then build up the percussion, use some sound design, and it's also going to be carried by the French horn. So let's go ahead and start this piece, and I will talk to you after the piece is over. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. So there we have it. There's the demo cue that I wrote for today's stream. So like I said, I wrote that cue really in mind with all the characteristics of like what makes epic music. So like I said, I have the really big orchestration, use of sound design, soundscapes, that sort of very this one had sort of that really mechanical feel with the percussion, it sort of began with this very sort of ambient soundscape, and then it built to our whole percussion section, which we'll get to in a second. But very powerful percussion. So yeah, so the whole idea of epic music is, I think the first thing you have to do when writing epic music is understand the definition of what is epic. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm writing epic music. Well, what is epic? So I guess the definition of epic is something that is very great or large, usually difficult or impressive, or telling the story of a hero or about exciting events. So doesn't matter the way that you want to look at it. Whole idea of epic, it's large scale, especially in music. We take that as a translation of large orchestration, and one sort of driving theme that sort of resonates throughout the whole entire piece. So just to sort of take a look at this, we have one main theme that sort of carries throughout the whole thing. So our theme is... So... let me go ahead and play that. So that's right after we modulate, actually, to the key of D sharp minor. So... and so right there, so what we pretty much ended up doing throughout this whole entire piece is that in order to keep a piece fresh, in order to keep it exciting, we tend to want to modulate. So modulate pretty much for those of you who don't totally understand music, modulate is when we travel from one key to the next key. And to understand keys, you need to understand that each note in a key, so each of the 8 notes, have their own chordal values, right? So when we have a scale, so like C, it's definitely not what I'm going for. But each one of these notes, of course, has their own chordal value. So we have C, right? So pretty much when we're modulating, we're going from one key to another key. So in this case, we traveled from the key of C sharp minor. There we go. Actually, D minor, and then we... So let me go ahead and play the staccato line for you to sort of set the stage for how we orchestrated it. I believe it was... no, it looks like it's C minor. So we start in C minor, and then we travel to the key of D sharp minor. F minor. So, as you guys could tell, our chord progression is incredibly simple, right? So it starts out in C minor. Right, so we did C minor, B flat major, and then F minor. And then we did... and then we held on to that, and then we went... sus4, and then all the way to F sharp minor. So you can see we included those sus4 chords to really add some spice to it, because, you know, if we were to have just done like, for example, like it would work. It just wouldn't be as exciting if we did something like this. Especially the sus4 to the minor sounds really cool. So somebody asked, Reistro asks, what staccatos are these? So these are from Majestica. Very beautiful staccato lines. So I mean, you have like, I mean, it has that like very sort of vibrant stringy tone. So it's like. Like especially for the epic music. But I mean, it has that whole feel, or you could do like the Dark Knight thing, right? I always tend to play that. But it definitely has that awesome low section, so like that whole feel, really cool feel. And then and by the way, if you guys have any questions about the samples that I used to create this throughout this whole entire stream, go ahead and ask. But anyways, so we start out, like I said, with this sort of very ambient soundscapey type thing. One of them is an Omnisphere soundscape, right? Then we also have this very sort of ambient string line from Albion 5. So one of the things that when I studied classical music, and I still write classical music, I mean, I'm writing a whole entire symphony right now in the classical music style. But one of the things that I did when I was studying classical music is I realized the whole idea of imitation. So what imitation is let's say we have a melody, right? And let's say the melody is a rhythm. And let's say this is the rhythm. So the whole idea of imitation is that you have one main sort of melody that you introduce, or one main rhythm that you introduce, and then eventually it goes like sort of goes into the background, but it's still there, and it imitates what you at one point had as your main melody or your main rhythmic figure, right? So right now we sort of introduce it here, and it makes more sense when I bring it in right here, as you'll see. And then we go into the actual percussion. And then, of course, I add more in. I add the snare drums, especially. And then the big-ass drums. I tend to just call these big-ass drums, because I feel like it'd be wasting time if I calling it like a medium taiko. I just call it big-ass drum. It's on the downbeats. And then we sort of get a little bit more interesting here. Boom. So it sort of adds some movements, right? We have those downbeats, and then we have the boom as sort of like the transition to the next downbeat. But here we add some like in between, like boom, 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 which really adds that movement. In an epic piece like this, it's really important to have that movement that keeps on sort of dragging in that audience member and really creates a visceral experience. You want to create that movement so that the person feels like they are moving with the piece. And so that's what we were trying to do with the percussion here. And then we can sort of go back we have these ethnic ensemble percussions. And then, you know, one thing that my good friend Daniel James said is the whole point, you know, loops, are they cheating? You know, with new libraries from companies like Soda Kinetic that's coming out recently, where they have loops and stuff, you know, is it cheating? And he gave an excellent sort of answer to that question. And I think essentially it's cheating if you're relying on that to write your piece of music. If it's just sort of something that you would do already, I think it's definitely fine to be able to include that. So I already had my sort of basis percussion section right here, right? So all of this stuff is all programmed in, and it's all sort of carrying the piece. But then I wanted to add in this little damage sort of loop section here, because it was something that I had in mind of doing, and I probably could have programmed it via damage anyways, but it would have taken up a lot of time. So I figured I might as well just put in the loop here. But then when you add in everything, check this out. All right. Then staccatos. And so yeah, we'll get to the whole staccato vocal section here, but so yeah, like I said, the percussion section is sort of carrying the piece, and it's creating that sense of movement, which is so important in a situation like this. Good friend Michael Frankenberger asked, "Hey bro, I don't know if you did it already, but could you show me which drums and hybrid tools use?" So I didn't use any hybrid tools in this piece. I did use a library from 8Dio as my main percussion section. So I used Epic Taikos from 8Dio, this is actually the new version. So 8Dio pretty much completely redid it, and it sounds unbelievable. I will say, I've said this multiple times in my streams, but the new 8Dio libraries, right, who's an excellent sample library developer, respect them greatly. But they've been putting they've been making these patches where they put everything into one patch, and it tends to just really be sort of buggy sometimes. It take a while to load. But yeah, so I mean, so it has these gigantic big drums here, so you can be like it's just really massive, and it has all these different individual drums if you sort of wanted to go individual on it. And especially from the last Epic Taikos library, it had those beautiful chimes, and I was so glad that they kept those. So although I do think when it comes to drums, when it comes to actually tuning the drum, it just sounds weird. Like, it doesn't sound right? So that's why I like to keep it just on a few different tones. But no, there wasn't any hybrid tools, although I probably could have added some in here. I have hybrid tools 1, 2, and 3. 1 has some really cool stuff, like the Transformers percussion and all that type of stuff. And then the second one has some really insane sound design stuff that I actually used on my film for some of the sound design. And then I, of course, have hybrid tools 3, which is a very sort of modern go at it. But anyway, so like I said, what we ended up doing here is what I wanted to do is I wanted to start out the piece sort of very prolonged and very sort of eerie and ambient and beautiful. So what I ended up doing is I ended up going with a awesome patch from Albion 5. So Albion 5, actually no, this is Albion 1. So Albion 1 is pretty much the remake of the first Albion, which they call Albion Legacy in this version. So you could actually go back and get the Albion Legacy, right? But they pretty much completely redid it. They recorded new stuff. They also added in the Edna synth engine, and it's pretty massively awesome. So we start out with that, and we also have this cool effect from Albion 5, which is called air. And it's a very sort of simple idea, air. It's like pretty much them blowing air into their instruments, and it creates this very awesome sound. It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. I'd sound like a total dumbass if that's really not what they're doing, but hopefully it's what they're doing. And like I said, we have this soundscape, and then I'll sort of walk you guys through the piece. I'll turn it down a little bit. We'll take another listen here. Percussion is introduced. And then it carries under. Horn line. Da da da. And then we go into the next section. So we pretty much just key change. So Michael asks, so the rhythm is made with epic taikos, and the damage loops are to add some. Yeah. So the basis rhythm is created with epic taiko, and then we of course have the damage loops adding that little sense of like sort of flair to it. So let me go ahead and pull this up here. So just to talk over this for a second, right? Epic adventure, hybrid music, overall niches, an overwhelming larger than life feel. We have super large orchestration, at least in this case, definitely. A defined theme seeming to reoccur that creates a sense of continuity. And so that's what we had with this thing. The sort of French horn, the da 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 da, really kept everything together and felt awesome. A lot of the times in epic music, we have string octaves, which usually come in on the climactic part, which really just sort of pronounces your theme. And that's like a very specific thing, but it's just an example of what one of the attributes of epic music is. We have usage of French horns to amplify the theme, and in this case, we actually introduced the whole entire theme with the French horns, with this. And then, of course, hybrid orchestral niches, which is something a little bit different. Of course, the use of synthesis combined with orchestral, using sound in a musical way. So a lot of the times people will record, household appliances and dumpsters, like sort of like damages. And that's, of course, sound design. And that's something that's used a whole lot in music, and especially in modern music. A lot of the times to in a film where it has like a very specific feel, a lot of the times they'll record like very specific sort of things to include in the score, just to sort of so like The Revenant, for example. The Revenant has like a nature ambience throughout the whole thing. That's like sort of sound design. It is sound design, and that's sort of used to immerse the listener further into that world, and it's sort of just made the listener feel immersed in the film, especially while watching it afterwards. It was a very cool addition to the Revenant score. So let's go ahead and look at our strings. Usually when I write epic music, I always start out with, of course, the theme. And then from there, I will go ahead and plan out the chord progressions for the theme. And then once I have the chord progressions, I'll usually record those either in a string ensemble patch, or I'll record it like I'll sort of orchestrate it in a brass section or something like that. But usually after I do the string ensemble patch, I always sort of orchestrate it myself. And so I'll use individual voices because, with something like, with this, where it has really nice like legato transitions and it sounds, I don't want necessarily like, because the string ensemble patch makes it very, very hard for you to have those very beautiful transitions, and everything like that. So I like to record it each voice individually. So let's listen to it. Just sort of like So yeah, so that's pretty much the strings. In this piece, the strings are pretty much only for the octaves. They're pretty much playing octaves the whole time and really pronouncing the melody. Let's go ahead and talk a second about staccatos and how I use staccatos in my music and how staccatos and ostinatos are so incredibly important in music. So a lot of the times, staccatos, like I said previously, earlier in the streams, movement is so important in epic pieces, and I think that staccatos is a very good way to supply movement while also supplying melodic sort of material, to where percussion is like movement, but it's not as much melodic and more rhythmic. With this, so in this piece, we of course have the, so we have that whole. Yeah, so and then we of course modulate. So yeah, so the staccatos keep that like sort of rhythmic sense, and that's why I always program it in, usually, because therefore I have the availability to affect like the note velocity. So like if I wanted to, I could start out here. I could look at my melody here, and I could go ahead and like add a sense of like a crescendo without even doing volume. Using it on something like this tends to sound a bit more like sort of volume automation. Like if we were to just go ahead and do this. So here I have a string ensemble patch pretty much running from, I'd say, the beginning all the way to the end. The beginning of the whole entire sort of thematic passage where it begins to sort of rise in its epicness right when the percussion hits. So that, of course, is 8Dio's Majestica. It's a very gigantic library. It's like, I think, a 200-piece orchestra. So that's, of course, 8Dio. And both these together, these are both 8Dio from Majestica. And so another thing that I did is I actually doubled the staccato strings once the piece like started sort of progressing. So I had that one staccato line down here, of course, which was Majestica, and then I eventually went ahead and brought in the warm staccatos here from Cinematic Strings 2. Then one octave up. So yeah, that's sort of the staccato section. By the way, guys, I know there's 18 people here right now. If any of you guys have any questions regarding my process composing personally, the samples that I use, the way that I produce my music, please go ahead and ask. There's no way that I can help you guys out fully unless I know what it is you guys want to know. So if you guys have any questions regarding this process, please go ahead and ask. So DMD Composer asks, thought you said you were switching to Cubase. Yeah, I sort of bought Cubase. I mean, I created a whole entire template in Cubase, and I had a very hard time sort of getting a grip on it. I know that a lot of people in the film scoring industry nowadays use Cubase. I guess DP as well has been sort of rising, I guess, but not a lot of people are using it like in the very professional realm. Usually it is Cubase, and of course people are mixing a lot in Pro Tools. And then Nuendo is like the Pro Cubase, which a lot of people are using, especially in the film industry. So yeah. But I don't know. I guess I got so locked into my Logic Pro X workflow, especially with my template and how I sort of navigate my template, that it almost seemed utterly impossible to switch over and to sort of learn a whole new language, because that's sort of what learning a new DAW is. It's learning a new language. So yeah. So since we don't have any, I just hit the microphone. Since we don't have any questions, let's talk a little bit about harmony in epic music, right? So let me pull up a piano, and excuse me, I don't have any pedal right now. So pretty much in epic music, one of the most common chord progressions right? So you have those, and like one thing that I've personally seen, I was talking about, the transition of film music. So we started back all the way with Holst, and then we went through the golden age of film composition with, composers like Bernard Herrmann and all that type of stuff, and Jerry Goldsmith. And then we went in to where, John Williams did his whole Star Wars thing. And then again, back to the sort of 21st century where we have very simplified harmony, and we've sort of reduced in our complexity, but yeah, and with, of course, simplifying the orchestration, or not simplifying the orchestration, with simplifying the harmony, you begin to sound more and more and more and more and more like pop music, right? It's really the orchestration that separates us. So I see a lot of people, the like every one of their epic pieces will sound like, stuff like that, like very simple harmony. It's something that would be used in a pop song. These chords are something that could be used in a pop song. But like I have no problem going out of the whole norms of harmony. Of course, this is my symphony right here, and I don't really stick with the contemporary style of harmony. I sort of have to go outside the boundaries, and I have to sort of travel back a few hundred years to sort of get the whole Mozartian feel. Lots of tonics, subdominants, and dominance, but it's a very cool exercise, actually. It's something that I really recommend if you guys have the time for it. Go back and learn classical harmony, learn how chords are structured, learn how themes are used and how themes are developed by means of orchestration, by means of imitation. All these different techniques are so incredibly helpful, especially when learning how to write epic music. And that's one of the things that a lot of people tend to sort of look past upon. A lot of people will see old things. They'll see history as, oh, it happened, whatever. Now we're in the modern day. No need to worry about that. But the past is like literally how we got to the future. That's why I think history is so cool, is because it's like all these events are really created the type of world that we have nowadays, and it sort of like is a very it sort of develops and everything like that. So we have gone from the 1500s when we had the Gregorian vocals and we had the square notes on the notation software, and we went from that to the Baroque era where we used a whole lot of Ionian and Aeolian sort of scale. So we have major, and we sort of went from all of that to, of course, the classical era, and then the Romantic era, where we had people were just sort of like messing around in the area of harmony and really trying to try new things. And I think that in specific, it's been very, very helpful to be able to go back and sort of observe it. So like in the classical era, you're going to have a whole lot of like, and just sort of like an example of how that whole thing, here, one sec, let me pull this up. Turn this off. Let's run over to my notation software. Okay, we'll do device input. By the way, I just got Note Performer, which is an awesome MIDI playback in here. So this whole style of harmony. So I don't know whether it was this section. No, it was this section. But the way that movement is used in passing tones, we have here. Right, so it's a lot of tonics and subdominants, and interesting rhythms and themes that sort of tend to develop. And I think that one of the most awesome things that I've learned about, from classical music is the whole idea of how to develop a theme. So like here, for example, imitation, right? We have this whole section here. We have this theme that's introduced right here, and it's da 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 da. Right, so it goes. Da, 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 da. Then it comes in on the flutes, higher flutes, right? It repeats. And then we come up with a soaring oboe. And then the harmony takes it over. And so it's that whole idea. So let's sort of answer a couple of questions that we have here. Epic pop, also lots of pop tracks are modified for trailers. Yep, definitely. I was actually thinking about creating a trailer version of the Moonlight Sonata. I mean, that'd be like the most epic. It'd be like a. So it'd just be like so gigantic because it's such a dramatic like, and then you have the harmony. It's just like one of the most beautiful pieces of music, and like I said, harmonies worked so differently. So this, I mean, used to be like so yeah. Anyways. Hi, this is Jane's K Music. Hi, how do you use reverb? One reverb to all your tracks. All right, so I'll show you my reverb stuff. So pretty much what I end up doing is I'll send it to buses. So here, I have these buses here, and I have large reverb, strings, brass, choir, and synth. So I have all these individual buses, and if I need to send something to because each of those reverbs are very different, because each instrument has their own sort of frequency range and feel, and it really sounds different in an acoustic environment. So I sort of created each of the individual reverbs to sort of really feel good with that specific thing. So I have like a synth reverb, and then I have, of course, strings, brass, and I usually just put the winds in the large reverb. It tends to sound really, really nice. Excuse me. And then, of course, I have the choir. And so a lot of times I tend to write really heavy choir music. I sort of learned that whole idea from like Harry Gregson Williams. He loves writing choir stuff. For example, here's the staccato strings with the staccato choir. My God, I can't. So you have like, oh, gotta turn this off. Go away for a second, symphony. Thank you. You know, so like all the staccato choirs, and I tend to use a lot of choirs in my music, especially when it comes to larger ensemble choirs like Lacrimosa. It tends to sound really freaking awesome. Here I just have a I actually think that's the only hybrid tools. Michael earlier asked what hybrid tools do I use, and I think that the only hybrid tools that I actually use in this piece is this riser. Okay. But yeah, so another question from Darren. Again, ask your questions. I cannot help you if I do not know what you guys want to know. I mean, I've been trying to. I've just sort of been showing you guys around this piece. I'm describing my process of how I compose music, what I personally know. And if you guys have any, personal questions regarding this process and my process, or the samples that I use, go ahead and ask away. So Darren again asks, what scores have you felt taught you the most? It all depends, because I think film music is it presents such a large canvas, and depending on what the project is, whether it's some really small period drama film or a really small really gigantic science fiction film, or whether it's some cheesy holiday Christmas film, each one of these different films has its own sort of characteristics that can definitely translate to having its own individual, score. Yeah. And I think that each individual score opens up room for innovation, right? So Lord of the Rings definitely innovated in the area of harmony and orchestration, especially with the use of choirs. So yeah, so that's like the whole what should we call it? I tried to do this the other time. And this interval, it's like is that a tritone? Yeah, it's a tritone. And who would have thought that it would sound beautiful, right? Who would have thought? But yeah, tritones can sound beautiful and cool. So no need to write your tritone music, like this. It's a very cool thing. But yeah, so what scores have inspired me personally the most? I'd say Gladiator, in a sense of just really providing a very beautiful theme that sticks, with you throughout the whole entire film. And for me, what are those strings coming from? Is this coming from this? Thought I already shut you off. What in the world? Or the That theme is just so nice. I'd say, let's see. Let's look really quick. Let's look at some of my film scores. Um, this is one of my favorite film scores actually of the year. Unbelievable film score, composed by Rupert Gregson Williams. I'd say when it comes to sound design, it'll have to be like Batman: The Dark Knight. A lot of Hans Zimmer stuff. Yet I still love small intimate scores like The Theory of Everything, The King's Speech. I love The Danish Girl, Alexandre Desplat. I love actually all of the period drama type film scores that Desplat writes, because he has that very I actually wrote a piece in the style of that. He has this very sort of innocent yet mysterious, very small orchestration yet very powerful. Let's see. How did I write this? This was a long time ago. Something I never released. Let's see. Where are you? Here we go. Yeah, this. But yeah, so that's actually a really cool. That's a very cool technique as well to become a better composer. Is to highlight what scores you like the most, highlight what sort of harmonic things you like the most, harmonic sort of whether it's chord resolutions or chord progressions, and sort of imitate it. Write a piece like exactly like it. And then, once you have all these sort of little attributes from all these composers that you love, and once you have sort of understood and you've actually practiced how each of these composers does the thing that you love, it will most definitely help you as a composer, especially with ideas, coming up with ideas. For sure, I agree. The story extrapolates the knowledge of the composer, which leads to innovation. Dustbot is so great. He has subtle qualities that really bring out the emotion. Absolutely, I agree. Another question about the verb. We have, after sending groups to different buses. I don't send the groups to different buses. I just send the instruments. Do you sum them and send them to one common reverb? No, I do not. I don't. I don't do that. I just pretty much send them to the reverb, and that is that. So yeah. But anyways, epic music is something that is a bit different for everyone. Epic music is something that, like I said, has changed dramatically throughout the past 100 years, and will most definitely change alike, every single, sort of style of music. Film music has already come so incredibly far, and depending on how you look at it, whether you base it on, technology, the accessibility to be able to write gigantic film scores like on your own, on a laptop, it's changed so much. And I think that it's an unbelievable thing. It's allowed us to really do things that 20 years, 10 years ago would have been so incredibly hard to do. So it's truly an amazing thing how far technology has come and how far music has come. So yeah. With epic music, it's all about getting that theme down. Once you have that theme, figure out what chords you're going to use. Once you have your, of course, chord progression, you're going to go ahead and orchestrate it. A lot of the times, it really helps to be able to write in separate voices, like you would do in some type of, full score type feel. It definitely adds that other, adds a lot of dimension to your piece, right? So that's something that you guys could also do. Yeah. So. By the way, if you guys have any more questions, please go ahead and ask. I'm gonna play this piece one more time for you guys. And if you guys have any questions throughout the duration of me playing this piece, I would be more than happy to answer any of your guys' questions regarding harmony, orchestration, or of course my background or anything like that, or sample libraries. So here we go. Have you used the Pulse Search plugin? It's super cool. Nope, never heard of it. Never heard of it. Excellent. Awesome. Well, since there's no more questions, then I guess we're going to go ahead and end this thing. I've talked to you guys through my process of how to compose epic music, what are some of the attributes of epic music, sort of the history and where it's where it's derived from, where it's come from. And so I hope that that helps you guys out. Yeah, just remember, asking questions helps me understand what it is you guys want to know, because I'm just coming here to share the knowledge that I can share. But if there's things that I might not realize that you don't know, that you guys want to know, then you know, asking questions always helps. But anyways, so thank you guys so much for joining me today. Again, I do these streams every single week, as long as you guys enjoy them, I'm gonna keep doing them. So please let me know what you guys would like to see, what kind of things that you guys find helpful, what kind of activities you guys like to do on streams that helps you guys learn, and I will most definitely adapt. So again, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys later. I'll go ahead and play this piece one more time. Here we go.